and let's say they are a 3% agent, and you're only offering 2.5% or 2%, then they have to come and negotiate in and work with either their buyers or the sellers or the lenders or some way that it will get paid for so that they can get more. So it becomes a negotiation point.
Right. So my seller is now saying, because he's worried he might have to pay for it, he's saying, I don't want to pay for it. He signed a 2% for the buyer agent for selling his home. And he's now asking, saying he doesn't want to do that. And he'd like to have an addendum to his contract, and he'd like to have it as 0. So I talked through what would happen if we did that and how that would make selling his home more difficult. But he feels like he's pretty certain that that's what he wants to do. And that it's kind of, he's like, it's clear that that's what we're that's what we're doing. And I'm like, I've interpreted it differently, that we don't, the market's still going to have the seller paying for these things. I kind of walked him through the scenario of somebody coming and putting an offer on his home and having a 3% buyer agent commission and us saying, okay, nope, we have 0. Then the buyer will say, okay, then we need to lower the price 20 or 30 grand. And I've tried to walk him through what that would look like. But he's pretty certain he wants an addendum and he wants to change it to 0%.
Yeah, and I've wondered about this. So let's just walk through the scenario. If you're like, sure, seller, let's go through to 0%. So it's not on the MLS that you're offering 0%. So there's nothing out there really marketing that. If a agent is to call you and says, what buyer's agent commission are you offering? That's when you would say none. And so instantly this becomes the least favorite home to the agent, because now they know, okay, I have an uphill battle to figure out how I am going to get paid, which it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just pops it to the bottom of the stack. If no one calls you and asks you, then nothing changes, because they will show it and not know what the commission is. And so if you have an agent that's like me, I'm not going to call agents. I'm just going to send over the addendum saying, pay me 3%. That is going to be how I do things. So if I were to show your house, it would be just fine. It would become a negotiation chip. If I were to call you first and say, what commission are you offering? Then I would already know, okay, this is going to be more of a difficult conversation for us to try to get it.
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling? Like if you were to call an agent and they said 0%, how does that change how you view that house?
Well, I'm thinking I would say my agent hasn't disclosed for me to share that right now. We're having an open house on Saturday. We're encouraging everyone to come, and we will take the best offer and negotiate from there. Because I don't believe we will get 0%. I believe I'm going to have to negotiate with my seller and say, here's our options. Let's take the 2%. Let's see if we can negotiate 2%.
Yeah, and that's almost how I'm thinking most of this is going to end up. Like that's my opinion. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, but I think that it's just going to be a whole nother negotiation item. Like right now we build a net sheet and it starts with the price, which is negotiable. Then we move to concessions, negotiable. The listing agent commission, technically that's negotiable, but I say it's not because
But we've already negotiated that.
Yep, I've already negotiated it, so that doesn't change. Then the buyer's agent, now the buyer's agent have already negotiated that with their buyers, but they are negotiating that with this offer. So that's really the biggest change, because before I would walk up to a seller and say, I'm 3%, I suggest we pay 3% to the buyer's agent. And I already had that negotiation and that conversation with them. What I feel like the people that say 0%, I don't want to offer any, that is removing the pre-negotiation, and it's moving it to when we get the offer, we're going to negotiate it. But there's going to be
Yeah.
some,
Can I
every
chime
agent's
in?
going to offer something. Yeah, Jeanette, what's your opinion?
So I've had this conversation with Dean because Dean thinks that we might be not giving our sellers the best fiduciary duty by offering a buyer's agent commission. He's thinking that we maybe put 0 on all of our contracts and then tell people when they call to present what they think, because he feels like it should just be a negotiation tool at that point. Like we should just negotiate it and we shouldn't have our sellers locked into something. So he's thinking that we should do 0% on our listing agreements and then have them negotiate that. And if they're good agents, they'll negotiate what they're worth. And if they're not, then they won't.
And I
Wow,
could
that's exactly what my seller is wanting to do. So that's really helpful to hear.
I could see a day where we take that away completely from our exclusive right to sell, right? We're not too far from that. It's like, hey, you're going to pay me 3% as your listing agent, and then we'll see what the buyer's agent asks. Like right now, it's just the only number that we're putting in there is what we are allowed to market, and then what we're gonna already, it's pre-negotiated in. And so
Yeah.
if you aren't marketing it, like I'm not going to post my commission anywhere. So if it's 0, I don't really care. I could just say, yeah, we're open to
Well, and
negotiate.
he's saying don't say it's 0. He's saying present your offer and we'll talk about it with the seller. So he's saying like we're not going to tell people that we're offering 0. We're just going to say do your job and negotiate what you want.
I like that. That's
Can
all
I
we
give
can
a-
work with 0.
What about on the buyer's agreement? I mean, when you're talking with a buyer, are we supposed to prepare the buyer that they may have to pay our commission?
We always
Yes.
have.
Okay.
Well, we'll already have the BBA signed, so we'll have that conversation before we show a home.
Well, and just remember
Yeah, but in the
that
past, it's always been kind of like the sellers are going to pay this, I mean, for years and years, as long as I've, been around real estate, it's always been the sellers that pay the commissions. And so now it's kind of up in the air.
but it's not. I mean, the sellers are still most of the time going to pay the commission. It's going to just be another negotiation that you're having as a buyer's agent with the listing agent or the seller to get your commission paid.
Yeah.
Dave,
But
I think
yes,
Cameron,
if they refuse to pay for that, then that is on the buyer to pay.
I think Cameron and Cody Thorup have a really good script. It was like one of the first classes I went to, and they talked about just how to like introduce the buyer agent commission and how to word it in a way where you're already setting up the expectation. There's a chance the seller doesn't want to offer 3%. So we'd have to negotiate. It could look this way or this way. So that was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
For these combos.
'Cause
I can give a,
Oh,
go ahead.
No,
I was
you
going to
go.
say, I can give a real life example. I actually had to have this conversation over the weekend. So I was the buyer's agent and we put in an offer on a house, and the seller hadn't told me beforehand what the BBC was. And so I just wrote up an addendum and asked for 3%. The seller came back, he called me and said, hey, they're really considering your guys' offer, but I do need to talk to you about the commission. At this offer price, they're only willing to pay 2.5%. They won't go to 3. And I said, okay, well, is there any wiggle room? What are they willing to budge? Is there, anything there that I can work with to help convince them or whatever, sweeten the deal? He's like, nope, they're pretty adamant. So I said, okay, let me go talk to my clients and see how they feel. So I went back to my clients and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. And I was nervous. I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I am uncomfortable bringing this up because I don't want to feel slimy or greedy or anything, but I try really hard to get 3%, and the sellers are only willing to offer 2.5. Now there's a couple ways that like we could work the 3% in, and my buyers opted to meet me in the middle with the remaining 0.5% and pay me directly 0.25% extra. So
I hope when you say pay you directly, you mean pay the brokerage directly.
pay the brokerage, yeah.
Take it.
Yes, but not work it into the purchase price is what I mean.
Wow, good job.
Let's break this down for a second real quick, because this was very important. This agent came back very hard and said 2.5. Would you guys be okay with 2.5%? Let's be honest. I'm okay with it. If someone says 2.5, I'm gonna say, yep, that's fine. But
I was
Kylie did the
prepared to
first
take
thing,
it.
it's like, ooh, nope. Like, what can we do to bring this up to 3? So she just said no right off the bat. What can we do to get it to 3? Now that agent was still stuck in the sand, so then she had to go to the buyers and talk to them. You know, and I imagine if we were to get to the point where the buyer's like, we can't do anything, you would have taken 2.5% and been fine.
Yeah. I was prepared to take 2.5, but there was a voice in my head that was like, you know what? Like, if I'm going to learn the right way and be worth my salt, I need to get comfortable even just bringing it up and then just see what happens. So,
Yep. A lot of the times the other agent will be a weak negotiator, and you saying, I deserve 3. I'm worth 3. Give me 3. Sometimes that agent will be like, you know what, let's make this deal happen. I'm gonna take less of my commission or something like that. Or I think I can make it work with the sellers. They're just trying to push back, and you pushing back against their pushback pushes them back. So just that quick little thing, and then let them stew on it. Even if Kylie would have gone to her buyers and said they're not going to pay me my 3%, I'm just letting them think for a while and make them nervous, and then call back and be like, ooh, my buyers can't come up with any more. How can we get this 3%? Like, maybe that could have worked as well, but just like a little bit of
yeah.
negotiation here ended up making Kylie more money because she did that. And you can do that same kind of an idea with your sellers, with your buyers, with your everything. When the agent pushes back, just give them a little pushback and be like, ooh, I don't think that can happen.
I convinced them to sell to us 20 grand under asking, so I wasn't going to lose the deal because of 0.5% commission.
Good idea. Good idea.
Did they accept the offer then?
Yeah,
So-
we're under contract as of Saturday.
Nice.
Awesome. So can I ask Jeanette a question while you're on here, Jeanette? How do we get an addendum to change the buyer agent commission on exclusive right to sell document?
There is just a blank addendum that we can just say buyer's agent commission to be 0.
Okay. Okay.
And
So do
Amy,
I just, yeah,
sorry, make sure they know we're going to be offering 0. That does not mean we are paying out 0. There is a
Yeah.
very high likelihood that the buyer's agent is going to come and request 3% or 2.5%, 2%, something like that. And that is going to become a negotiation as part of the price, and the overall net that the seller will get is what we'll be looking at. So
right.
even though we're offering 0, they are going to be paying some amount.
Yeah, just like when we make the listing price, we can make the price, we can make the commission, but the market is going to tell us what we can do, right? What offers we get, we will negotiate and get the best we can with all of the offers.
Correct.
So, Jeanette, do I go on the forms on the utahrealestate.com and get a blank addendum and send that to them on DocuSign?
Yeah, it's a blank addendum to the exclusive right to sell. So make sure it's not to the purchase contract, but to the exclusive right.
Okay. Okay.
Hey guys, this week for your DTD2 calls, it's N and R. Like NAR. Very fitting. N and
Timely.
R. They end with N or R. Give them a call this week. And then today, we have Ignite starting here in like 12 minutes. It's open houses with Amy Erdman. So that should be a great one. If that's part of your game plan, you should definitely come because she crushes open houses and does them often. So get ready. We'll see you here today. And then tomorrow we have, let's see, Ritz, it's our barbecue, right? For KW. So doing that for Tuesday.
Yes, and also we have our MRE class with Becca. I mean,
Yeah, ooh, that will be
yeah,
a good one. Yeah,
Mikel.
come to the MREA class at 9:30 tomorrow as well. So hopefully I'll see you all today. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great one.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.